Hey everybody, so we are back with conversations with clients and pretty much whoever else wants to talk to me. So my friend Bailey here is joining us, and he's going to kind of tell you who he is and what he's been doing and just how we kind of met and what's transpired since then. Not perspired, because that would be a whole different thing. Okay, are you ready, Bailey, to tell him your story? All right, have at it.
Hey guys, my name is Bailey Roth. I'm a student athlete here at the University of Arizona. I run track and field. I was fortunate enough to meet Gwen through one of my classes I was taking in a leadership series that was going on, and we ended up becoming friends and speaking about this mindset thing. I didn't know a lot about it before, but as the process went on, speaking with Gwen, she definitely filled me in on the whole effects of positivity and how that can really change your life. I had some times last year and the year before where I was seeing different forms of psychiatrists or psychologists and really getting nowhere with what I wanted to accomplish with self-improvement. And it wasn't until Gwen and I really sat down and discussed how I can have control of myself and my mind and how that can change my life completely from where I was. And so long story short is I basically stopped seeing any form of psychologist and basically started this mindset training with Gwen. And that's where really everything started taking off as far as self-improvement. So I had a really tough semester, I would put it that way, last year. I had thoughts of stopping school just to kind of get my life together, and athletics was tough. Balancing athletics and school is a lot, and of course on top of that can be stressful with personal relationships, etc. But through Gwen's teachings and practices that I started doing daily, I was able to have a grip on my mindset and how that affected my daily life. So to say in short, I went from having that struggle and peace of mind to becoming a Pac-12 champion in track that year in a few short months. And I actually ended up creating a 4.0 that semester. And not to say that it was only Gwen or only myself. I think it was a partnership or an understanding and the fact that she could allow me to see within myself that I have the tools instilled within me to do what I need to do with my life. And so that's what really ticked to me, is that I wasn't sure how to navigate through and how to find the tools within me to fix the problems that I needed to fix. And so with a little bit of guidance, I'm very proud to say that I had a great year and a great semester and a great season in athletics. And it was one of the best seasons of my life here in college. And I just look forward to how far I can go with this, because every week or every season that I do this, I'm always growing and learning, and there's always something else that I can learn, which is really fascinating to me, because when I feel like my mind's just like blown away by new teachings and new techniques and new affirmations and practices, Gwen provides me just something new that I can practice on a daily basis or monthly basis. That way I keep growing. And so it's a never-ending process. Everybody keeps growing, and I just look forward to what this can bring for me and the future of what I want to do with my life through athletics and as well as education.
Awesome. So, Bailey, you last year, like you said, you had some struggles, and then you ended up winning the Pac-12 championship in steeplechase. So everybody knows what your event is.
Yeah, exactly.
So high-level athletes, a lot of people look at you and think, oh, you've got it all together. Life is great. Things are going so well. School's paid for, whatever, all those things. What would you say to that?
I think it's an image that can be easily portrayed nowadays, especially with social media. Athletics has allowed me to build a huge following with athletics. And, a lot of people do think that, like, everything's great, or since I may have a big scholarship and all the resources that I need and all the support I could need, that everything's great. But internally, I think that people don't always know, and so That's something that maybe as an athlete, I don't always, talk about like the bad or what's going on internally, but, it's something that I have to not only internalize and let it build up, but I have to work through in order to grow and in order to become a better athlete. And so, in my experience, it is something that's vital to be able to like share personal struggles and just let people know that, you're not the only one out there that feels this way. Just because I have this situation or these circumstances doesn't mean that I'm any different in a sense of emotional well-being, for example. It's something that I've been able to work on and build on, and that's something that like I'm working on strengthening. And so it's definitely an image that people aren't always like willing to talk about because they don't want to talk about their weaknesses or their failures. But in my perspective, this is a sign of strength, showing yourself that you can be better and you can grow, both mentally, physically, and spiritually, because in this sense of getting yourself better, you're able to figure it out and avoid the struggles in the future. So.
Right. So, two things, but the first thing is, you just said avoid the struggles in the future. So what happens now when you feel yourself coming to this place where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm losing it. Like things are building up. What happens for you now?
I think that has a lot to do with the fact that things don't necessarily get easier in life, but you get stronger. And through these teachings and practices, you'll be able to handle different situations better than you would before. In my experience, like the way I've dealt with stress or adversity or various factors in life that kind of bring me down, is very different than how I deal with them nowadays. And just having an understanding that how to handle certain situations, it just gives you kind of a breath of like reassurance or security that like things are going to be okay because you have the power to control that. Whereas before, stress could take over my life or my circumstances could control me. But now that I have an understanding that I had no idea before of, I'm able to, like I said, not make light of the situation, but handle it better in a way that I wouldn't have been able to be before.
Maybe you have the tools to handle it a little better.
Right.
Would you say that's true? So how does it help you specifically in the race on race day, or, when you've got to get up and go run, those kinds of things? How does the whole mind game, mental toughness apply there?
For me, I think a lot of it is like we've discussed through our practices that, I don't lose sight of the vision. And for me, sometimes I can get caught up in like the now and the stress of what's going on around me, or how hard things can be on a day-to-day basis. But what's been really helpful for me is like when I wake up in the morning at 5:30 or 6 and I have to go run 10 miles, or I do a workout that's just strenuous, and then after I basically have to get ready and go to school all day. And that's a lot of mental load that I've been able to kind of understand the bigger picture or hold on to the vision, which has helped me on a day-to-day basis, because the daily grind is a struggle. It's hard sometimes, but ultimately, if I keep my purpose in my frontal lobe and I keep my vision the same and no one can change that, then the day-to-day is easy. It becomes a routine, and then before you know it, you're accomplishing your goals, and the process was all worth it.
Awesome. So we've talked a little bit about kind of, you're a senior, you're kind of, tell me again, what is it?
So I'm a senior in school, and then I'm a junior as far as athletics. So I have this year, and then I'll do a fifth year next year as far as eligibility. So I'll be around a couple more years.
Okay. So after school, so, a lot of people end athletics in high school and then they end in college. So what do you got going on? What's your plan?
My plan and my dream has always been to make an Olympic team. So 2020 is coming up. I definitely want to strive for that. Becoming the Olympic trials here in a couple of short years, that's my definite big goal. But as far as like athletics standpoint, I'm just building up my athleticism here, with the coaching that I have and the resources. And in a couple short years or less, I'll be able to sign a contract, whether it be with Nike or Adidas or whomever signs me at the time. But my biggest goal has always been to run professionally and use my talent and my gift to inspire others and, really just see how far I can take it. And so as far as graduation and athletics, I think that that's going to be a huge stepping stone of my career, especially with this mindset training, that I'll be able to take it to the next level when it comes down to the bigger pond or the bigger league when it comes into the professional career.
Perfect. So I'm so excited about your whole big vision, because it's also my vision is to help others to understand their own potential in the sense of what they have access to as far as potential goes. Can you just tell me one thing that really has like stuck with you and it's kind of your go-to thing, the thing that you do when you need a little mindset shift? Or do you have a one thing?
Can you state the question?
Yeah. Is there one thing that kind of, it's like your go-to plan, like, oh, I have a race coming, so I'm going to do this to get my mind in shape. Or maybe you don't have one thing. Maybe you have a series of things that you kind of work on. Anything specific or no?
I think it comes really naturally to me, which is actually good. But as far as the day-to-day, I think that's a bigger aspect for me. Not coming into a big race, there may be a lot of pressure on me of expectations or what they expect me to do and what race and where and how they think I am as far as shape-wise. But I just sort of take that pressure and I take that expectation and I just let it go, because at the end of the day, it's up to me what I do in that race. And mentally, I just need to be in the right place and in a secure place, in a relaxed place, because if I'm too stressed or if I'm too worried or nervous, I try to let all of those nerves kind of bottle up. Well, not bottle up, but funnel into working for me and not against me, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Easy to let your mind kind of control you in a sense of if you're too nervous or too excited or you don't think you're going to live up to someone else's expectations. I've really learned to let that go, because personally, I've had a lot of expectations, but I don't let those get to me. I kind of just let my motives and my goals play out in the race situation. And, at the end of the day, whether it met their expectations or not, it doesn't really matter, because it's about my personal success and what my goal was for that day, whether it be a time or a place. That's just really what's important to me. Is I try not to measure myself against anyone else. And that's how I keep my mindset right.
Awesome. So you're focusing on your vision, your purpose, your goal, and not worrying about this person, that person, and what they have for you, kind of thing.
Put this way, I always say it's my path. It doesn't look like anyone else's path. And when I'm able to understand that, it helps me a lot, because it's easy nowadays, especially with social media and with people around you and the D1, NCAA, Pac-12s. You're constantly looking to your left and right and you're like, all right, who's better than me? Who am I better than? But at the end of the day, I just compare myself to where I am right now and where I want to be and hold on to the bigger picture and the bigger vision, because at the end of the day, no matter how I get there, I know I'm going to get there. And whether I have a good race today or a good race tomorrow, I know that at the end of the goal, I'm going to accomplish my vision. And so that's really important for me, because I can't base my happiness off of other people's opinions or base my self-worth in an athletic standpoint against someone else that's beating me right now, because later in the season, that may be not the case.
Right. So earlier you said that you have worked with other people, working on mindset on different levels, psychologists and such. So what's the difference between what we worked on and that to you?
Yeah, awesome question. I think the biggest difference for me is, the psychologists that I've seen in a sense of self-help or motivation or personal growth, I
Mhm.
think that a lot of sympathy and like, okay, I understand you're going through a hard time. And they may give you some worksheets or some exercises, but at the end of the day, after I met with you, it changed my perspective a lot on the whole psychology of self-improvement, and because you give the steps and the concrete like path, or not even the path, the tools and the steps, I guess, in order for me to like change whatever it is that I'm working on and working through. And that's the biggest thing for me, is because I'm a visual learner and I like to do, and I like to be hands-on. And so if I'm like just speaking in concepts, or the psychologist will say, okay, I'm sorry that you're going through a hard time. I think that you have a good idea of what you need to do with your life. Well, that doesn't really help me at the end of the day, because I walked out of there, I feel good for 30 minutes, and then, the same patterns and routines keep coming back. But with mindset training, I'm able to actually write down what I'm feeling, write down what I want, envision it, and really like take the steps towards doing that. Because through all the different laws that we've discussed and training techniques, if you want to say it that way, I'm able to just keep a track of what I'm doing and like monitor my progress in order to get where I want to go. And that's the biggest thing for me, is it's totally night and day difference.
So I like to say that my approach is inside out as opposed to outside in. So a lot of those things, people tend to work on the kind of the effects of what's actually going on. And so what you described there, what we work on are the things that I'm teaching you about you and how you operate. And so when you understand how you operate, then it's so much easier to do those things and have that kind of an action plan. It's not just I like to say, putting Band-Aids on things. It's actually going to the core.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is that, in a psychologist standpoint, when you go into the meetings, it's that they want to put a Band-Aid on it, and, they want to see you next week and then the week after. But honestly, with mindset training, it's a different perspective, where I can do it on my own time and prioritize that, and that's helping myself. Whereas, before, when I was meeting with them on a weekly basis, I was just waiting till the next appointment, for 30 to an hour, to discuss whatever was going on at the time. And basically, it was just a repetitive cycle. And I really just felt like I was treading water in a sense of self-improvement. But when I was able to speak with you, I think in a real example, I think I met with you for like 2 hours, and it made up for the 3 months that I met with this psychologist. And I was like, I'm not going to continue making appointments with him, because there's no need for it anymore. And it was just something that at that moment in time, I knew that this is where I need to be, and this is what I need to be doing, rather than wasting my time in that other direction.
Yeah. So I so appreciate Bailey, because he is, sometimes I have to kick him in the butt and make him like, hey, come back. Let's remember what you're after. And he's not alone in that. All my clients are like that. Why? Because you have a program that's built up. And so that program has to be reprogrammed. And that's pretty much everything that he was just talking about, is we are reprogramming his kind of MO, what he's just been doing his whole life and how it's been working out. And not only do we talk about athletics, but we talk about his, general life, and also career stuff. So it just really works and applies for just about everything and everywhere. And I really appreciate you talking to me, Bailey. And we're going to put this out there for everybody so that they can relate to you a little bit. And I also want to tell everybody that Bailey also would love to come speak to your group, especially maybe high school age. Is that kind of your high school, college, junior high?
Spoke to high school, middle school, some smaller colleges. I'm comfortable with whatever options
Okay.
are. So.
Okay. Because that's the ultimate purpose, is to help people understand who they are and the potential that is available to them, no matter who they are. They don't have to be an athlete in a D1
Right.
school. They're just people, and
Right.
everybody is awesome and amazing. And
Yeah.
did you have something to add to that,
I
Bailey?
just agree with that because it's amazing that we can talk about it in an athletic standpoint, and a rodeo standpoint, and a business standpoint,
Right.
and it's across the board because everybody has a mind and everybody has a mindset that they're able to work with or change. And that's what's so beautiful about this, is that it's so universal, and everybody from all professions can really apply this to their lives and see how they can change their own lives. And it's not about one thing changing their life. It's about them being able to change their life with what they have, with a little bit of
Love
luck.
that. Yep, that's exactly what it is having the power to just help yourself. I mean, the power in the
Everyone wants to be able to do that, exactly, but I've never known how, and so it's been an amazing process now that I've been able to been introduced to mindset training. I'm like, what is mindset training? But now that I understand, it has definitely changed my life in many aspects. You know, and whether it's athletics or education or just life in general, especially, it can definitely help a lot.
Awesome. All right, Bailey, thank you so much. If anybody wants to get in touch with Bailey or ask about that, is there a contact point for you, or do you want them to contact me and I will contact you?
We can do that to start. We can have them contact through you.
Okay. Okay. Yep, no problem. And I mean, I got his phone number, so I'll just call him in the middle of the night, wake him up or something. All right. You guys everybody have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this, and we'll do the next conversation with clients. Bye, Bailey. See ya.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for listening.